Chapter 6, Shelter from the Storm. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of violet and orange, as if the very heavens paid homage to the brewing storm. Clouds gathered, their edges gilded with the last light of day, while distant thunder rumbled an ominous symphony. Lyra watched, captivated by the dynamic display, her scientist's mind cataloging the beauty even as her heart quickened with a primal response to the approaching tempest. "We should find shelter," Darius warned, his voice barely audible over the strengthening wind. His dark eyes scanned the coastline, a sense of urgency radiating from him like a tangible force. Lyra nodded, her curiosity about the island's legends piqued by the storm, wondering what secrets it might wash ashore. They hurried along the shore, the wind whipping Lyra's short hair into a frenzy, the blue streak catching the fading light like a defiant banner. Darius moved with fluid grace, his powerful form seemingly unaffected by the lashing winds. He pointed towards a sea cave carved into the cliffs, a sanctuary from the impending deluge. Their race to the cave was a dance of survival, a testament to the primal instinct that drove all living things to seek shelter from the storm. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest, her breath coming in quick gasps as she pushed herself to keep up with Darius's swift pace. The first fat drops of rain began to fall, cold and heavy against her skin, spurring her to move faster. The entrance to the sea cave loomed before them, a dark maw promising refuge. They dashed inside just as the skies opened, unleashing a torrent of rain that blurred the line between sea and sky. The cave was an ethereal haven, its walls shimmering with moisture, ancient stalactites hanging like nature's chandeliers. The sound of waves crashing outside echoed through the chamber, a wild lullaby that seemed to sing of the island's ancient history. Lyra bent over, hands on her knees, catching her breath. Darius stood at the entrance, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the storm, watching the tempest with an intensity that bordered on reverence. As their breathing slowed, the relief of finding shelter washed over them, leaving them marooned in a sense of isolation that heightened every touch, every glance. "This storm," Lyra began, her voice echoing softly in the chamber. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." Darius turned to her, his eyes reflecting the distant lightning, a smile playing on his lips. "The seas around Nazyros are full of surprises, Lyra. Not all of them can be explained by science." Their eyes met, and in that moment, the storm outside seemed far less tumultuous than the one brewing between them. The sea cave, with its shimmering walls and ancient whispers, became a sanctuary not just from the storm, but from the world outside, a cocoon where secrets could be shared, and truths could be revealed. In the dim light of the sea cave, Lyra hugged her knees, the patter of rain outside a soothing rhythm. She glanced at Darius, his profile etched against the storm, and took a deep breath. "You know, I wasn't always this dedicated to my work. A few years back, I had a research partner. We were more than just colleagues." She paused, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "He stole my research, published it under his name. I was devastated, but I didn't let it break me. I came back stronger, more determined." Darius turned to her, his eyes reflecting the distant lightning. "The sea has a way of testing us, Lyra. It demands strength, resilience." He looked out into the storm, his voice a low rumble. "I've been alone for a long time. Being different, an outsider, it's not easy. But the sea, it understands. It accepts." Lyra felt a pull, an unspoken connection. She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not like anyone I've ever met, Darius. There's something mysterious about you." A smile played on his lips, his eyes meeting hers. "Is that a compliment, Dr. Chen?" She laughed softly, her fingers brushing against his arm, a spark igniting at the touch. "Maybe. Or maybe it's just an observation." His gaze held hers, intense and unyielding. "And what do you observe?" She swallowed, her heart pounding. "That you're a man of secrets, Darius Kaskinas. And I'm intrigued. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering, tracing the shell of her ear. His touch sent shivers down her spine, awakening every nerve ending. And you, Lyra Chen, are a woman who's not afraid to dive into the unknown. Their faces were inches apart, the air between them charged with anticipation. The storm outside raged on, but in the sanctuary of the sea cave, a different storm was brewing, one of whispered secrets and unsated desires. Lyra's eyes flicked to Darius's lips, her own parting slightly. She could almost taste the salt on his skin, feel the heat of his mouth. But for now, the touch of his fingers on her ear, the intensity of his gaze, was enough to set her heart racing and her body yearning. The storm outside seemed to echo the tempest within them. Each crashing wave and flash of lightning reverberated through the cave, nature's primal rhythm pulsing through their veins. With steady steps, Lyra closed the distance between them, her eyes locked on Darius's, her gaze unwavering. "I want," she whispered, her voice steady even as her heart raced. "I want to feel that wildness. With you." Darius held her captive with his intense stare, his eyes like dark pools reflecting the untamed energy of the storm. "You don't fear the unknown, Lyra," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You embrace it." Her breath quickened as she took another step forward, their bodies mere inches apart. "I do," she admitted softly, her eyes never leaving his. "And I want to embrace you. All of you." Without hesitation, she claimed his mouth with hers, unleashing a hunger that had been building since their first meeting. The kiss was a tempest of its own, an exploration of mouths and tongues, a dance of desires that had simmered and stewed. The taste of the sea on his lips, mixed with something indefinably exotic, only fueled Lyra's longing. His hands gently cupped her face, his thumbs brushing the delicate skin of her cheeks as he deepened the kiss. His lips were demanding, yet yielding to her every response, as if he, too, had been longing for this moment. Lyra moaned into his mouth, her need as raw as the sea spray that heightened the intensity of their embrace. Pulling her closer, Darius pressed his body against hers, their skin burning with fevered desire. "Lyra," he murmured against her lips, his voice thick and hoarse. "I've waited an eternity for you." Their kiss deepened, teeth and tongues tangling as their hands explored, mapping the contours of bodies that had haunted their dreams. "I want to feel every inch of your skin against mine," she breathed, her lips trailing down his jaw, her teeth gently nibbling at the sensitive skin of his neck. Darius's response was a primal growl, his hands sliding down to grip her hips with a possessiveness that left no room for doubt. He pressed her against him, the hardness of his arousal evident as he claimed her mouth again. "I want you, all of you," he growled, his hunger unleashed. "Here, in this storm's heart, let it be just you and I, Lyra. Together, we'll brave the unknown." As their kiss deepened, Darius surrendered to the storm raging within him, a battle between his longing for Lyra and the fear of revealing his true nature. He wanted to lose himself in her, to explore every curve and shadow of her body, to taste the salt on her skin and hear her call out his name. But with each passing touch, each electrifying sensation, the weight of his secret threatened to crush him. He was a creature of the depths, a guardian of the sea, and if she knew the truth, would she still want him? With a sharp intake of breath, Darius pulled away, his eyes closed as if to block out the intensity of the moment. Lyra, dazed and breathless, reached for him, her hand falling short as she struggled to make sense of his sudden withdrawal. "Darius," she began, her voice laced with confusion and unspoken desire. He opened his eyes, his gaze a storm of conflicting emotions. "Forgive me, Lyra," he said, his voice thick with regret. I cannot explain my actions. I should not have." Lyra stood, her hand reaching out as if to bridge the distance between them. "It's all right," she said softly, her eyes searching his face. "I understand." "We don't have to," she paused, her voice trailing off as she realized she didn't understand, not really. The passion that had ignited between them still burned bright, but now it was tempered by confusion and a newfound awareness of the barriers that lay between them. The storm outside began to abate, the wild tempest surrendering to a serene calm. Nature's transition from chaos to tranquility mirrored the emotional journey that had just taken place within the sea cave. The chaotic pounding of waves gave way to a gentle lapping, the air growing still as the clouds parted to reveal a starry sky. As they made their way out of the cave, the calm after the storm enveloped them, a peaceful respite that felt like the eye of the hurricane. Their connection had intensified, and they knew that their relationship had crossed a threshold that promised both pleasure and pain. They exchanged a glance, unspoken promises reflected in their eyes, their lips still swollen from the passion they had shared. Lyra's thoughts swirled as she walked back toward the research center. The day had been a tempest of its own, from her arrival on the island, to the mystery of the sea creatures, and now, the enigma that was Darius Kaskina's. She felt exhilarated, confused, and curious, her scientist's mind craving answers, even as her heart yearned for more. What was it about this island, this man, that challenged her understanding of the world? Darius watched her, his heart torn between his longing for Lyra and the fear of exposing his true nature. As he saw her turn to look back at him, he realized that there was no going back. He had started down a path that could lead to his destruction, or to a love more profound than he had ever known. His inner conflict raged on, even as the storm abated, nature's tranquility offering little solace to his troubled soul.